This might sound crazy, guys, but it is not. Is Florida ready for the tsunami that scientists predict will happen? Bang, you might say. Aren't tsunamis a West Coast thing? Like the Pacific Ring of Fire with all these subduction zones that are supposed to create, or not supposed, they are creating mega thrust earthquakes with tsunami waves higher than 100 feet. And we know it happened, right? In 2004, in 2011. So Florida, the Space Coast is at risk. And this is something that many scientists say they need to take more serious because they're not prepared at all. So where is this coming from, guys? This is real. So stay with me. We talk about this in this video. I mean, as if Florida needs another type of disaster to worry about, like storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, what else? Flooding. What else? Sinkholes. You should watch my videos about that. Florida has so many sinkholes. I didn't know that. It's absolutely crazy. Is Florida ready for a tsunami? Then they have the full package. They're just missing the earthquakes, but who knows? But scientists have warned for decades, guys, that a tsunami could be on the way towards Florida with 500 miles per hour because it has happened before. There's precedent. But only few were around in 1755, though, to document this destruction when it happened to Florida. Imagine a tsunami in an area like Florida that is basically flat and wet. So, but if some scientists say when a Florida tsunami happens again, we have to say, did you know that, guys? Now, with millions living so close to the shore, the consequences, imagine that, guys, could be catastrophic. We've seen what happens in Florida if there's a hurricane pushing storm surge towards the coast. Imagine a tsunami, imagine something like Sumatra style. Will this flood all over the whole peninsula and come out on the other side? So some tsunami scenarios are way worse than the waves from the earthquake of Lisbon, Portugal, that hit Florida 269 years ago. The Great Lisbon earthquake that happened on November 1st in 1755 with an estimated magnitude between 8.5 to 9. So a really mega earthquake was the most destructive earthquake in European history. If we think about earthquakes like this, we think about the Pacific Ring of Fire. So this quake had an associated tsunami run-up. They think in the European areas has reached 5 to 15 meters, so around 50 feet. It was significant on the Moroccan coasts. Run-up was significant at the Azores and Madeira, island of Madeira. There's run-up reports from transoceanic tsunami waves documented as far as the Caribbean, Brazil, Newfoundland, Canada. So while many of you might not have known that it's been struck by tsunamis in the past, we all know powerful thunderstorms, hurricanes, stuff like this. The lack of reputation might be well deserved because, of course, Florida has a much lower tsunami risk compared to the west coast of the US. There was another tsunami in 1886. It was caused by an earthquake in South Carolina. And the wave has extended all the way down to Florida as well. So right now, scientists are coming up with some tsunami scenarios that are even worse than the waves from the Lisbon, Portugal earthquake that hit Florida 269 years ago and almost wiped out Lisbon completely, by the way. So after this Boxing Day tsunami that was ending 230,000 people around the Indian Ocean decades ago, tsunami waves have again been in the news recently, after a 7.0 magnitude earthquake in California warnings happened in the Pacific Northwest for a potential tsunami. Thankfully, no tsunami was triggered by that quake, but these waves, that tsunami waves, have been the topic of many, many scientific studies. And even there was a Netflix series that is out there now talking about a volcanic eruption of the island of La Palma and the Canary Islands of West Africa, what that tsunami wave would do. So let's not get into that. We want to know, why do scientists think that a tsunami will hit Florida? And they say it's going to be a mega tsunami, more powerful than any recorded tsunami for Florida could clobber the Space Coast, how it's often called. That's what some models predict. It's not just some out of the sky, could be. No, they have done some modeling. So these extreme mega tsunami waves are, of course, in the range of the low probability natural events that Florida should expect and prepare for. But oceanographers and geologists are sending a dire warning to Florida. They all agree that a Florida tsunami is inevitable. But there's spar over the potential severity and what extreme scenario is most likely to send such a tsunami towards Florida. Could be a distant earthquake, could be a landslide, or some abrupt geological anomaly. The late oceanographer and tsunami expert George Maul, he worked for the Florida Institute of Technology, has warned for decades of inevitable tsunamis in Florida and the Caribbean that would bring disaster. That doesn't sound good. I thought you could sit on some Caribbean island, slurp your cocktail. Nope, and then this comes. Is there anywhere safe from any of that? I don't know, guys. I don't know. So George Maul has pointed to the Lisbon earthquake and to other historical precedents. And other scientists agree. He's not the only one. So while the researchers are saying that a tsunami like the one after Christmas Day in 2004 is unlikely in Florida, they also say a smaller yet still devastating tsunami could one day slam the Sunshine State. And it doesn't even need to be that tall because the state is so flat. They say it will have harsh, uncertain consequences. Again, look at the storm surges. That was bad enough. And they still say an extreme event could trigger a mega tsunami that would head towards Florida as fast as a jet and potentially devastate Florida's coastline within hours. What do you do then? Evacuation takes quite a long time. Works well if a hurricane is coming because they know it a few days ahead. But some in the scientific community remain skeptical of how much of a tsunami would be left by the time the waves would reach Florida. So, underwater landslides along the steep slopes of the continental shelf, off the US East Coast, or in the Caribbean could displace significant amounts of ocean water. That could generate localized tsunamis that might affect Florida's coastline. So Maul has warned for years that he calls it killer wave in Florida is inevitable and that Florida needs to prepare. The state emergency managers agree the likelihood of a tsunami is extremely low given the lack of seismic activity near Florida. That's what the Florida Division of Emergency Management Tsunami Hazard Profile, that's how they're called, is saying. So it seems there's nothing in the planning that they would prepare for that. Can they even prepare for that? They would have to build like protective barriers and walls along the coastline like they do in Japan. Is that feasible? I don't know. Would that help with storm surges? Probably, maybe it's time to invest in something like this. What do you think, guys? If you like the video, leave it a like. If you want to support it, check out the links in the description. You can buy me a coffee, and if you leave a message, I will answer it with a 30-second video message. You can answer back and we can see each other and chat. Thanks for your supers. Click the join button to become a supporting channel member for behind the scene and private videos. Stay safe, guys. Don't get swept away. Promise me that. I see you soon.